Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Look at Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels. What do these games have in common? They're all easier than Flashpoint Fire Rescue, a game that just came out on Steam, based on, or like literally a digital port of a Meat Space board game of the same name that I've never played, I'll admit. But apparently is pretty good. I'm on Board Game Geek right now. Came out in 2011. It's got a 7.3 out of 10 average with 16,000 ratings. That's crazy good. Apparently it's like the 254th best board game according to Board Game Geek's community aggregator. I've never played it. But I love digital board games, even though recently on the NLSS, I table flipped Catan and the Game of Life. I'll take no credit for the Game of Life. The Catan thing was an accident. So I bought this. I'm a sucker, really, for any digital board game, especially one that's actually got the rules implemented, you know, logistically speaking. It was $22 Canadian, purchased with my own hard-earned income here, and I can't beat the tutorial. I'm not mad. I'm giving it a thumbs up, because I've gotten a lot better in a short period of time. But it's freaking hard, man. I'm just gonna hit some negatives right off the bat. Single player only. So it's a port of the game, and it's kind of like Tharsis. You know, that dice rolling space station repair game that was very board gamey, even though that was an original design. It's like that in that you can definitely play it single player, but you could totally see how multiplayer would work well here as well. So having some kind of online multiplayer would be cool. Local, there is multiplayer, I should say, but you're sitting on the same computer, so it's kind of like a, you know, half measure. Anyway, I like it, and hopefully we'll be able to actually complete this here. Don't click experienced. This is one of those, like, French or German board games where this is like, you'll lose 9% of the time, and it's très bien. You know, we gotta go family. I'm not going to do the tutorial, because the tutorial has essentially the exact same parameters as House 1 Family Rules. All they do is hit you with the mechanics of the game right off the get-go. So, you know, you can see there's a variety of different houses here. These are just maps that you can play in, but the maps, it's kind of like, you can look at it like Pandemic or even like Settlers of Catan. The map just gives you the basic layout. The actual hazards as they show up on a map are generated dynamically as the game progresses based on your actions and essentially a random number generator. So what's the goal of the game? Well, there's a fire. We play as 6 firefighters, and we want to rescue 7 people. We want to avoid 24 damage being done to the house or 4 people dying. Let's just start it up here. I actually do use a controller for this. I think it probably controls fine on PC as well, but it gives me the prompt for controller, so I do controller. Alright. So what the heck do you do in this Sims house here? Well, first off, you got 6 firefighters. I don't know if eventually, like, there's gonna be expansions, or if you play experienced, you can actually upgrade what's going on in the game, because, like, it seems like each card here, or each character class has room to grow, and maybe there's other classes, I don't know, but there's no RPG elements to the best of my knowledge. So what we want to do, we want to go to these question marks on the board, and sometimes it's just going to be a false alarm. You know, maybe it's just an old tin can's making a whistling noise. We think it's a survivor or something like that. Sometimes it's a survivor. If it's a survivor, we want to grab them and drag them out of the house. As soon as we get them out of the house, they're rescued. But we also want to stop this fire from spreading, because as it spreads, it's going to do more damage to the house, and it's going to cut off more of the house from us. So the way that I've had some success coming close to completing a mission is to really focus on taking care of the fire as soon as possible. The thing is, right now, the fire is like somewhat manageable, but every single turn, like every single firefighter that acts, a little ember floats around, and if the ember, wherever the ember lands, if there's no fire, like on this tile, for example, right over here, it takes me back to the outset. So, like, if an ember lands here, it creates smoke. Smoke's not necessarily bad, but if an ember lands on a smoke square or on another fire square, it causes a flashover, which does damage to the house and spreads the fire throughout all other smoke tiles. It's a whole thing. So I'm going to start with 1 firefighter over here and 1 firefighter over here. And then on this side, I'm going to put a firefighter here. And then I think maybe we'll put 1 here. I want to get, like, wherever there's fire, I want to put 2 firefighters. So there we go. And then this guy is just over here in case embers come in. So we start by playing with Green Lord here. The way that you act in the game is essentially by using action points, which you can see in the top left. Everyone starts with 4 per turn. If you don't use any on a turn, or if you don't use some on a turn, those get saved and rolled over to a maximum of 8 right now. Top right, you can see damage to the house. If 24 damage gets done to the house, I believe that's 1 for every circumference tile or something. Maybe, I mean, there's more than 24 tiles around the perimeter. I shouldn't say circumference, I suppose. It's not a perfectly circular house, DAE. You get the idea. If 24 damage is done to the exterior of the house or the interior of the house, you'll see whenever there's a flashover, it happens. Then we run into problems and we'll lose. The points of interest, if they get overrun by fire and there was a person on that point of interest, which is the blue question mark, they'll die. That's all you need to know for now, except for the fact that by using this kind of like radial menu here, we can choose how to act. So our green firefighter standing at the door, for 1 action point, which is on the right side here, we could extinguish this to smoke, which is better than it being fire, but it can still flash over. Or for 2 action points, we could extinguish it to nothing, which is what we'll do. And then I'm going to move in 1 square, which is 1 action point, and then I am going to extinguish it to smoke. You know, just try to get the fire under control. We have other actions, for example, and, you know, we'll see where the ember goes here, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so it landed in just about the worst conceivable location. It landed in a line that allowed it to create more fire from that smoke that we created. So that's just horrible news. That's just RNG, basically. So we're going to get in here and we're going to try to extinguish it. And I think one of the best things we can do for extinguishing fires is try to separate them into islands of fire so that, you know, if an ember actually hits an island that's not connected to another island, it won't cause the whole house to explode. But to some extent, you are at the whims of the RNG here. Please, God. Okay, that's not as bad. Although, because it landed adjacent to smoke, it did create fire. Alright, so other actions you can take. I'm not sure if we're going to take them just yet. This takes 3 actions. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to move over here for 3 action points and open the door. We can chop a hole in a wall. It takes 2 times 2 action points, so it either takes 4 or 2 discrete intervals of 2. And you can use this to create escape routes once you have victims that you're carrying. Okay, this is not too bad. So we're gonna extinguish this because the door's already open. And you'll see chopping, I promise you that. But first, let's just get this guy in here. Everything requires action points. Moving requires action points. Chopping, opening a door requires action points. You know, it's not like XCOM, so it takes a little bit to learn the intricacies of that language. Alright, our point of interest has been destroyed. Compromised to a permanent end, if you will. This is a terrible start, but I really feel like it's a terrible start that's not necessarily due to our own mistakes here. So I'm going to leave my firefighter out of the fire a little bit, because if an ember lands close to the center, which apparently happens every single time, that could have flashed over and maybe caused them to get lit on fire, which is relatively not good. Things are going terribly right now. So I'm going to chop up an escape route here rather than using our action points to extinguish one thing to smoke. And then we're going to hope that, good lord, maybe life becomes a little easier for us here. So we're getting back around to like our first actions here. We probably should rescue this, or at least investigate it, but because the fire is raging out of control right now, I really do feel like it's in our best interest to try to, you know, maximize it. And then once the fire's a little bit under control and we have some, you know, forgive the pun, breathing room, we can then... No! Okay, no, it's not bad. Then we can start to rescue some units here. So this door is unfortunately not already open, but that's okay. We'll open it up, extinguish this one all the way down to the ground, and start to try to get the blaze under control. Believe you me, I have tried multiple times to try to play this run in a way that seems a little bit more intuitive to me, which is just get the civilians and get the heck out as fast as possible. The blaze becomes, like, uncontrollable. Let's go investigate this. Okay, so we got Steven Richards in tow. We're gonna hope that we don't get lit on fire over our next few turns, because nobody's here to help us, and we'll do our best to escape there. It's so important to actually take care of the fire and try to manage it. So we'll extinguish this. And we'll extinguish this to smoke to buy us a little bit more time. I actually feel like, you know, now that the ember has been fairly pleasant for a couple of... Well, it was for a second there. While the ember has been fairly pleasant for a couple of turns, it's been not so bad. So I'm kind of going to do something similar to what we've done recently here. I'm going to move in here. We saved some action points last turn, so we actually have enough to extinguish 2. Or we could chop as well, but let's do some extinguishing here. And now we've got Islands of Fire, which sounds like a great ride at an amusement park. But is also a relatively decent situation to find ourselves in. So I'm going to finish the chop here for 2. Move in for 1. And then now we've got a nice little route that our units can use to get a shortcut here instead of always, because every movement, like every tile moved, requires an action point. Opening up shortcuts like this seems really important, but in the end I do have to tell you that I essentially have no idea. And I'm just doing my best. So I don't mind the extinguish to smoke. I think that that is fine. And then unfortunately this requires 2 action points, and then it would just be an extinguish to smoke. So I actually feel like we might be better off starting a little chop here to open up a path between units, and then ending our turn and saving some points. The tooltip is kind of deprecated. Like, I know you're probably looking at it and going, it says damage wall with the A button, why don't you do it? Well, it's just not how it works. Like, damage wall was our last prompt. I'm not quite sure why it sticks around there. It might be my own idiocy when it comes to figuring that out. I'm not sure. You know what? On red, you don't get to act for a little while. Why don't you go investigate this point of interest on the sofa? And it is Sam Byron. I'm going to grab you. And when you have a unit in tow, it takes twice as many action points to get the heck out of Dodge. So they're going to be potentially... Ooh, okay, that's fine. They're going to be potentially moving super slow here. But hey, check this out. While we're here, I think let's extinguish this fire. Or extinguish this smoke. And then extinguish this smoke. Just to make sure we avoid the spread as much as possible. And then pull Steven out of here. See you later. So we've now rescued 1. 1 person has died. Not amazing, but could be worse, I think. So yeah, this... I say this in almost every Let's Look At, but what you see is what you get to some extent. You know, I think that at its core, this is actually a really fun strategy game with a novel approach to things. You know, I've never played a strategy game that's themed around... and I know there are, like, the hero rescue games or whatever they're called on Steam, or Emergency Fire and Rescue. I've never played them, so this, for me, is like board game mechanics, which I understand to some extent and enjoy. Even though I don't fully understand why the smoke spreads in every situation. Who goes next? Purple. Purple can do some good extinguishing, so I like that. But it also maps it in a way that I think is pretty interesting digitally. So I think it works really well for that. What it really lacks, and this is very typical of board game adaptations on Steam because they're designed to be played in single sessions with friends, is some kind of like meta layer. You know, like you go out, you start with a squad, and then you go out and you maybe it's all. I'm just literally putting like a layer of XCOM on top of it, where you go out with rookie firefighters, and when you complete missions, you get experience points. The experience points allow you to, I don't know, maybe get some extra action points. And there is a valid argument, I think, to make that the game is not balanced around that. Yet at the same time, the fact that it's a single session sort of thing that you're supposed to play with your friends works fine, except for the fact that without any online multiplayer, this is the sort of thing that, you know, you really have to enjoy the mechanics on a single-player level to play by yourself on the regular, I think. So, while I can't really say that it's a faithful recreation because I have no idea, but while I enjoy the game, and I could see myself playing multiple runs of it, I think you also have to accept... You know what? I think we should chop this down. We can actually... I'm going to extinguish the smoke to be safe. And then I'm going to chop it down. And we can chop and walk out next turn. That'll be fine. Just save your action points for now. You know what I mean? It's just when you bring something like this to PC, I'm not necessarily saying you need an extra layer, but it helps. You know, either having the ability to play online, which I understand is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do. We're going to go investigate this point right here. We're out of action points. We're still going to investigate it, though. whether it's the ability to play online or the ability to have like some kind of extra hook in a single player campaign beyond just the implicit like, I like this mechanic and I would be okay spending more time in a game like this. You know, I think it's, we should get this one first. I think it's relevant. It's a relevant concern when you have a game like this. My personal opinion. I kind of feel the same way about it that I felt about Tharsis, which is, I really enjoy the game mechanically, and I tend to be a mechanics-driven person when I play games. But I think we should go back and start extinguishing. Or we could hit here. Nah, we should just avoid this all flashing over and becoming a freaking nightmare. But without some kind of like meta layer hook, it makes it tough to recommend if you're not interested in it to begin with, and of course in keeping with the fact that it is a $20 strategy game, which is I would say pretty much the average price of like a digital board game recreation or a you know, a triple I indie strategy title or something along those lines, if you know what I mean. That's my 2 cents. Now that's my negative stuff. The other thing that's probably worth noting is that I don't necessarily think the game gains a ton by being multiplayer in the first place, because as you can see, most of my turns, you know, I'm not saying I'm a great player necessarily, but my actions are, you know, fairly easy to understand by myself, and, you know, you can definitely very easily manage a squad of 6 firefighters without taking 20 minutes per turn, and I think we actually might succeed on this mission, even though it's still super, you know, we're far away from our objective, let's put it that way. So we're going to walk Sam out here. Congratulations, Samuel. And we're going to save an action point because I don't want to get caught in a flashover, and then hope that the Ember is not overly cruel to us. Oh, dude, that's like a really close point of interest. So yeah, all in all, like, I'm not disappointed with my own purchase, but I do wish that it had a little bit more robustness, shall we say. I'm going to, we should extinguish the smoke. I want to get over here, and this is not really something that we're going to do to save civilians. This is something we're going to do to hopefully control the blaze. Because again, we're already almost halfway dead from a... Okay, how did I not see you earlier? It's one of like the artificial things about the game you just got to accept is kind of like, this is a game mechanic. Oh, my immersion. But anyway, who knows, man? Maybe there's a basement that we can't get to and people are just climbing up through the floorboards. Yeah, we're already roughly halfway to failure based on the house damage. So it's really important for us to start to, you know, be proactive here. And we're doing a decent job. We'll investigate that when we get a unit over there. You are beholden to the whim of the Ember, but actually, I know a lot of people... I always come back to, like, the response to Tharsis, because, a lot of people do not like Tharsis at all. I actually feel like your best move is to crack this wall. And give us, like, an escape route that we can take through here if necessary. People play Tharsis... Oh, no! At least it wasn't a civilian, apparently. Let's go investigate, we should investigate this so we can put out the fire as well. And it is a civilian. Okay, so extinguish the smoke. Pick up the civilian. And you can move one tile. There are some people who absolutely hate RNG in their game design. You know, they feel like it's a... And I very much disagree with this, in case you can't tell with my tone of voice. But it's a different strokes for different folks sort of thing, without a doubt. Your next job is going to be to come over here and crack a hole in this wall. I think, to give a better escape route. So people play Tharsis and they go, well, I made the absolute, like, mathematically best moves. Why am I being punished by dice rolls? And I'm not going to make an overarching point about, like, you know, oh, what does it mean? I think we're just going to stay still so we don't get caught in a flashover. Oh, in real life you can't control all of the elements, so why do you think in a video game you can? Like, I think that's a huge fallacy when people talk about, like, games criticism, is that everything should be indicative of some kind of reflection of real life. But I like a little RNG in my game mechanics most of the time. I don't consider it a an objective negative. When it's done poorly, it can be very frustrating for sure. Even when it's done right, it can be very frustrating. But it's something that I enjoy, and if you enjoy it too, I think you'll like the Ember mechanic. In turn. Especially I feel like it's emblematic of board games, you know. Board games almost always use cards or dice or some kind of random number generation to mix things up. I'm going to investigate here, and I'm going to leave red to take care of this smoke. I want to see if maybe we can rescue another civilian. Not false alarm. And we'll use some extinguisher juice there. Cool. Dude, this is actually by far the best attempt I've ever made here. And I still don't think we have a great chance necessarily. Mostly because I just don't know. But there's another civilian rescued. Maybe after this video, I will finally be decent enough at the game to beat the tutorial. But probably not. I read a Steam review in this, because, I mean, I'm purchasing it for myself, right? The Steam review was like, I failed on the tutorial, and I was like, idiot. I played it myself and was like, that dude's not joking. Well, what do you think here? I think we might be better off investigating this point of interest. It's another civilian. That's ideal. All we have to do is hope that the smoke in the corner doesn't flash over before we run into trouble. Okay, so you, again, I don't know if this is a good use of your time. There's probably people who have played this game on the regular. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, on Board Game Geek, it's like ages 10 and up. So, I'm going to have you crack a hole in the wall so we can start extinguishing this smoke. Next turn. There's probably some of you who have played this game, maybe played it multiple times, and you're going, my dude, you're making some seriously suboptimal moves here, but, you know, so far we're starting to get something done, and I'm quite pleased with the situation, if I'm being honest with you. I think we might be able to make it happen here. Just don't let the smoke trick you. Okay, this is a great potential turn. Move over here. Is it a civilian? It is a civilian. Matthew Donovan. From the FX show of the same name. Okay, you don't have a civilian, right? You do not have a civilian. So your job, I think, is quite simple. You're just trying to keep this house under control. Do some extinguishing. You've already cracked a hole. I don't think you need to crack another hole, even though it would make it easier to move around. You're going to get in here and you're going to do a little smoke control. Like it's July 2018 in the nation of Canada. Alright, so we did have some damage done to the house there. And a lot of flashovers, but you know, it's okay. Life goes on. I think... I mean, we probably need somebody else to get over there. We're probably going to have Blue get over there. That seems acceptable. So what should you do? I mean, I think while you're here, take the opportunity to extinguish this just so we don't run into any more trouble. And then get ready to move through this door on the next turn. Because Red's about to save another civilian. Remember, we only need to save 7 to win. And we're starting to close in on that. We definitely should not have extinguished that, because Red can just come back in and extinguish it again, but... that's fine. So we've already got 5 civilians saved. No! So our firefighter, I kind of hate this. Our firefighter got hit by fire. It doesn't kill them, it just puts them outside of the, action for a turn. It moves them back to a quote-unquote recovery point. Please, no Ember in this area. Okay, seems like kind of a waste. Maybe we can just get another civilian and get out in like a turn, and it seems like that is indeed going to be plausible. Please, God. Drag Joe to that exit. He doesn't want to go, dude. You're going to have to drag him. Okay, that was a lucky turn for us. Now you can run the math. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to cost us 8 action points to get out. Or we could crack this wall open with an axe for 4 and escape for 2. So in the end, I think this is a good way of protecting where we're at right now. We'll end turn and hope for no flashovers, please. Seems decent. You're not really accomplishing too much, unfortunately. You're not holding a civilian. Okay. I think you just try to minimize the risk of any structural damage, extinguish this to smoke, and turn, you're good to go. This is dangerous. Now you have like an actual job to do. Because this fire is getting out of control. Dare I say it's going to burn this city? Burn this city? Now I'm moving in because I want to be aggressive. Normally I hang back a little. This is extremely bad. I thought. We need yellow to take another move. Yellow or blue, potentially, and again, I've never gotten to this point, so I'm not totally sure, but potentially win us the game. When they act, and blue goes in 2 turns. So as long as we can avoid 2 terrible flashovers, we should be okay, I believe. And thank God this guy gets to go again. Hit you with one of these. I don't know, is it worth extinguishing, like moving and extinguishing the smoke to get this one that's a little bit more centralized? I would say probably yes. But again, I think we've established many times I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay. Escape and win the run? Is that not 7? That's only 6. That's okay, yellow goes next. Simple move, move over here, extinguish this fire. Next turn, all we have to do is walk out. It should be a victory, but I do not know for certain, because I've never made it to this point of relative confidence before. He's done it. There we go, you saved 7. Rescue more or end game. Dude. I didn't know we had the opportunity. End game. I got an achievement. It's the first time I've ever seen that Victory Firewatch logo. Yo, let's actually go. And that's kind of like, this is a great microcosm of Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Reasonably tense, fun, accessible. I mean, after playing for like 10 minutes, I was like, okay, I get the general gist of it. But you finish a game and it's like, good job. It doesn't, it lacks that, and I mean, again, XCOM is, I don't know, cost $4 billion to make, but, you know, XCOM, you have the tension of a mission, you finish it, the tension is rewarded with something that you can use to potentially make your life easier, or at least prevent it from becoming much harder. As the game goes on, you grow accustomed to your squad, and then when you actually, you know, run into trouble with them, it's gut-wrenching sometimes. You know, in this, it's like, you won! So it is a little bit of a smaller experience, but I think that combined with the fact that there's no online multiplayer makes it a little bit tougher to recommend. But if you're the kind of person who enjoys these digital board games, I think it's solid. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's great, but I think it's solid. I've had a good time playing it, and I think it's the kind of thing that you could do for one segment on a solo stream or something like that from my personal perspective. So this is Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Seems fun. $20 on Steam, 22 Canadian. I hope you enjoyed the episode. You can always pick up Flashpoint on Steam by clicking the link in the video description below to be taken to the Steam store page. It's not a sponsored video. I bought the game with my own money. I don't get a cut. If you enjoyed the episode, click the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more Let's Look At It's in the future, and click the bell if you want to actually be notified of when the videos come out. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.